This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Welcome to DBL. Good morning. It is great to be back. Good to see you all. Very nice to see you. We are starting today with a story that's made a lot of headlines over the past couple weeks. At the beginning of this month, a 24-year-old Marine veteran named Daniel Penny put a fellow New York City subway rider named Jordan Neely into a chokehold for 15 minutes, which ended up killing him. Original reports said Neely, who is experiencing homelessness, was throwing trash and threatening other passengers, and now those reports are being challenged, with others saying he was being loud but not threatening anyone. Last week, Daniel Penny was charged with second-degree manslaughter. He was released on bond but could face up to 15 years in prison. Now, a legal defense fund has raised almost $2.5 million for the Marine. Even Kid Rock has donated to it, giving $5,000 and saying Mr. Penny is a hero. A lawyer for Penny was on CNN last night. Let's take a look at that.
Look, I think if there was ever a case where a grand jury could be convinced not to bring charges, whether that's because my client testifies, whether it's because of other defense witnesses we put into the grand jury, I certainly think this is one of them. I'm confident that everything that will come out will show that my client took reasonable steps to restrain someone.
Okay, were these really reasonable steps to restrain someone? And what do you think of so many people donating to the defense?
Well,
Erica.
It's interesting that this has been politicized, because clearly when things are, we call it politicized now, but really it's identifying who your team is in terms of who you can relate to most.
Absolutely.
So the idea that, you know, this the victim in this situation, who's no longer with us, was someone who struggled with mental health issues, lived on, was unhoused, and a lot of people are looking at their families thinking there's one person, one caregiver away from someone in their family being in that particular situation. Other people are looking at it from the vantage point of, well, if I were in that situation and my family was on that train, would I have intervened in the same way? And that's why I'm going to donate to this GoFundMe. There's other people who are looking at the situation thinking, yeah, the way that things in the narrative went with George Floyd, I wasn't about that. So let me lend my support to the hero in this equation, because yes, he did serve our country, but was it necessary? Is it ever necessary to restrain someone for 15 minutes? Was there a clear and imminent threat in that moment? And by all accounts, it doesn't appear that there was a clear and imminent threat. But what I mean by that is, remember in 2015 when those 3 young guys from Sacramento were in France?
Yes.
And a gunman came to do a mass shooting and they were able to take the gunman down? That is clear and imminent threats.
Any reasonable person would see that as a clear and imminent threat.
But what we're talking about here is, not only did this man go above and beyond anything that he needed to do to restrain this gentleman, a lot of people around did absolutely nothing, as if we didn't march in the streets about the inhumane death of George Floyd. And so I think there's a lot going into it.
Right, and we saw people there were 2 people even holding him down while he was being choked for that long. Any responses to what Erica said?
Jeff, what do you think?
It's tough for me to talk on things like this, Al, when I saw this morning, because let's just put it out there, the social issues of ramifications for my job, for things that are out there, me being painted in a certain light, right? If I take any side, here's the trigger words in this whole thing, right? I understand a man's life was lost in this whole thing. Chokehold, George Floyd. Right? You're already picking a team, as you said, a side. Kid Rock donated. Now you're picking a political party. So if you say something towards, hey, this guy served for our country, if you say something along those lines, now you picked your side as well. So it's very difficult for me to walk that tightrope without being casted in some sort of way. I know what to say. I know what to answer. I could sit up here and say, hey, you don't need to choke someone for 15 minutes and move on with the story and get a pat on the back from whoever wants to pat me on the back. But if we're going to have an honest discussion about what's going on in this country, picking that it's very dangerous, this political sides, social sides, A man just killed someone in San Francisco at Walgreens, choked him out. It was a black man and a black man, choked him out, then shot him with a gun. We're not talking about that story because nobody cares about that story. We're talking about this because it pins people against each other, and that's exactly what the media does.
That's super
Al,
interesting.
what's your response to
Well,
that?
you know, I think I'm probably the one on here that's ridden on New York City subways the most. and I lived there for almost 6 years, and I took every train that they have. I still know the train schedules by heart, and there's a lot of issues on trains. There's a lot of, especially when it's cold outside or super hot outside, there's a lot of homeless people on the trains, and some sit there quietly, others sit there and there is a rancid smell emanating from them. Some are having conversations with people that aren't there, and sometimes they are doing things that cause people to be agitated. And you know what those people do? They get up and they walk to another car. New York City subway riders don't deputize themselves as the judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to homeless people having that have lost the thread that are on the train. And I think when we have a situation like this, when you allow something like this to happen, what you're saying is this is the precedent that's being set.
Right.
If there is a disturbance, which there will be on a plane that you're on, Jeff, which there will be on a bus, or which there will be in line waiting for a concert, if there's drunk people waiting in line at a concert and there's a little dust up and somebody ends up restraining somebody and kills them, is this now the precedent because this has been set on this subway? So I think that's the question that we are wrestling with as a society. How do you handle situations like this? And the way that we keep coming back to is you wait for law enforcement unless it's a clear and imminent danger. Then we're talking about, Jeff, you get his legs, I'll get his arms.
You don't think someone on the top 50 list of New York City for mental health and causing problems arrested more than 40 times, that's not a danger to anybody?
He absolutely is. He absolutely is. That's not my call, though.
We got a couple testimonial witnesses that says there wasn't clear and imminent danger, but everything points to the opposite.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, and I'd like for you to clarify why he was on that list and what that list actually entails.
Yeah, so it's the top 50 of people experiencing homelessness who are most at risk and who also are most resistant to getting help. So it's a certain group of people who are
at
resistant.
risk of harming themselves or others. And I think, you know, we can talk about this all day long, but the truth is, in any major city, we're walking amongst people who have that same rap sheet all the time as it is. I think when we're talking about the idea of clear and imminent danger, that's the difference between, am I going to walk off this train or am I not? And I don't think I've heard anything.
Or if you can't, if they're blocking the door or they're assaulting your husband.
Right, exactly.
That's the issue. And here, the idea of citizens getting mixed up in things like that is, let's say Mr. Penny gets in this altercation and he gets stabbed, or a young girl gets hit and bangs her head and she dies. Human beings that are not trained to restrain people like this, things go awry. This isn't Walker, Texas Ranger, where you hit the guy and he goes down once. When people get into physical altercations, especially in subway cars or near subway platforms, bad things are going to happen, and that's why there's law enforcement down there to handle this.
Let us know what you think. We'll be right back.
DBL, this show is amazing.
There's a lot going on down here.
I would have been part of the Mile High Club.
Yeah.
So on point.
But I'm going to have a conversation about what's happening now.
Chuck Norris.
Well, go ahead, Jeff. Jump right back in. Here's what bothers me when this thing, and it's not even the story so much. I watch these videos on like YouTube or things, or when I see something like, I mentioned that story in San Francisco. People are just walking by while someone's getting choked. People on that subway are just not doing anything. People in the George Floyd are watching by. So anyways, getting back to my Instagram, there's like this video where this guy like the kids in on it, they're actors, and there's this little kid walking, and this guy runs up and grabs the kid and takes off through an alley. And this is on a busy street, and nobody is doing anything because they're too scared to get involved. Okay? If my kid got snatched up, I understand this is a totally different thing. This is a commercial break. But nobody's doing anything because they're too afraid to do something. Now, is this excessive force? Yes. But where is the line to say, I'm going to step in and do something because I think this woman might be getting harmed or raped, or this person might be a danger, or now you're being excessive? Where's that line? Because I want to be someone who helps society, but not the guy who goes to jail for it.
I think
Do you know what I mean?
think the line is really dictated by, in this case, it's dictated by common sense. If you, first of all, we know what happens when we restrain someone for 9 minutes, 15 minutes. Like that is very early and very front of center for all of us in this country. But the truth is, when we're in, like, I mean, Al talked about he's probably been on the New York subway more than anyone. All I did was take the L in Chicago. This is not something that is cause for panic. It's something that might be cause for intervention, but the intervention does not need to be murdering a guy because you're holding him down for 15 minutes. Anyone who is in those situations on a daily basis is looking at this dude like he is maniacally crazy. That's the truth. It's just the truth.
Welcome back to DBL. Y'all remember the Bud Light controversy for their partnership with Dylan Mulvaney, who is transgender? Well, now there's another beer ad, which is a hold my beer, like we were talking about, that's going viral and facing criticism for being, quote, too woke. So it's a Miller Lite ad. It is from back in March of this year. Let's take a look.
Here's a little known fact. Women were among the very first to brew beer ever. From Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis. Wow. Look at wild. It's time beer made it up to women. So today, Miller Lite is on a mission to clean up not just their whole beer industry.
Okay, now this ad is getting criticized, with some saying Miller Lite has joined the woke cult. Another person commented, "This is what happened when gender studies majors invade corporate boardrooms. R.I.P. Miller Lite." Meantime, Miller Lite is defending the ad, saying, quote, "Women should not be forced to mud wrestle in order to sell beer." So what do we think of this ad? And what do you think of Miller Lite will maybe face that same backlash that Bud Light did?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say something that people aren't going to expect.
I think I am too.
I've been the bikini model for
That is not what
products.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I absolutely have.
You took my point.
And no one, I did in college.
Right.
You know why? Because it paid well. And I was in a position to do it. And I did, and I don't regret it. I understand that we have come so far in terms of, like, you know, making sure that women have equity and equality and all these things, but a part of my decision to do that was to advance where I was and pay for my college. So I think that when we have these like ads or these conversations, it's like, has anyone actually ever asked people, like, there were women who were in those ads. I'd like to hear from them.
Right.
How do they feel about it now? Were they forced to do that?
Right.
I know that's not going to be the popular opinion, and people are going to be really upset about it, but I'm just curious. Who are the women that you blurred the faces of but showed the bodies?
Because that was their choice at some point. I also think, and this is a radical decision, radical, if you don't want women mud wrestling in an ad, don't have them mud wrestle in an ad.
I get it.
Why do we have to go and say that instead of just showing women in the ads? There's no need to put down or go down. And they now turn it into fertilizer that then makes the hops of the new Miller. Like, am I crazy? I think this is way too far. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a ton of time, but I'll just say, you know, a lot of these ads that are generated, they do after a ton of research. They realize that pro athletes sell beer. They realize that when you show people in bikinis, or anybody, men in swimwear, it reminds you of relaxing. When you see Corona ad, it's like, get off the subway, relax with our product. A hot bikini model, hot guy, and relaxing. So this isn't all just like attacking women. A lot of it's just trying to hit their bottom line.
It's just throwing it down our throats is a bit much. We'll be right back.
Viewer Janice Sumner shared some ways to save per, quote, the experts. The top tip is to fill your tank late in the evening in the coolest part of the day. So is it true filling up in the coolest part of day saves significant money on gas? Our sources are Consumer Reports and Gas Buddy head petroleum analyst Patrick Duhamel. It's basic physics. Gas heats up, it expands. So because gas is denser when it's cooler, theoretically, you'll get more energy per gallon if you fill up in the coolest part of the day. That's accurate, but Duhamel explained the change is minuscule.
Gasoline is more dense when it's colder, but a lot of stations temperature correct on both sides, meaning when the air temperature is above or below a certain threshold, their pumps are calibrated to take into consideration the temperature differentials. And by the way, we're talking about, basically the equivalent of very small, drips. This isn't going to be a noticeable thing.
The same is true for morning fill-ups. Consumer Reports tested the theory, pumping in the cool early morning and warm afternoon. At both fill-ups, the first few gallons were notably warmer than the latter ones because the gas had sat in the pump dispenser. But the temperature-controlled gas in the underground tank quickly compensated for those initial gallons. Consumer Reports also concluded a 15-degree difference in air temperature between fill-ups caused only a 1% difference in gas volume.
These pumps are always calibrated by departments of agriculture and weights and measures, so you're not, this is not the way to save more than 10 cents. This is just small peanuts.
We can verify no, filling up in the coolest part of the day, morning or evening, won't save you much money on gas. It's likely not worth chasing costs to fill up at certain times, especially if you are making an extra trip to the gas station.
Welcome back. After his directorial debut with Buddy Games, the Bob father is back at it again in the new sequel, Buddy Games Spring Awakening. Earlier, we spoke with the Josh Duhamel. Take a look. Everyone, welcome to the show, Josh Duhamel!
Yeah! How you doing? Josh, let's jump right in. You're looking handsome, more handsome than ever. So this new sequel looks wild, and you're not just in the movies, but you're also directing them. Way to grab the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
How does it feel reuniting with this cast again for spring break? And I listened to a podcast with Kevin Dillon. He said you guys just have the best times on set.
Yeah, we really do. These guys have become really close friends of mine. I knew Nick, and I knew Dan, and I knew Roday, James Roday, before. And Kevin, I'd met shortly before we started shooting the first one. And, these guys have been just fantastic. They show up to work every single day, and they bring so much more to the script than I could even hope for. So this movie is, on par with the first one. It is outrageous. It is a bit provocative, I would say. And, at the end of the day, it's about friendship. It's about camaraderie. And it's about just, not letting that kid die and trying to stay as young and fun and youthful as they can. And these guys definitely do that.
Don't let the man get you down. All right, it seems like movies like these that you're talking around, they come around every generation, right? Like Porky's, American Pie, The Hangover, and now Buddy Games. As a director, why do you think people love these movies?
Well, I think it's the unapologetic nature of these kind of movies that feel a little naughty stuff, but it's really funny. And I think that we had some fun with some of the current the current state of affairs out there, but we tried to do it in a way that was good-natured and not mean-spirited, but just had fun with sort of the extremes of some of the things that are happening out there. And this movie is at the end of the day, it's fun, and it's about friendship and how valuable those friendships become the older you get.
Well, we're a big fan of a little naughty and fun on this team, for sure. So we're looking forward to seeing this. But I want to talk about spring break, because when I think of spring break, I feel like there's activities people, and there are people like myself who are like, I'm not moving from this pool. So what type of spring breaker are you?
Good.
Well, this sort of harkens back to my college years going to spring break, and it was not just sitting by the pool and not moving. We were moving and shaking, I'll put it that way. It was crazy. And I think that part of this is these guys had this idea of what spring break used to be, and they find themselves accidentally in the middle of the throes of this wild spring break, and they had just left. And the reason they're there is because one of their closest friends had just passed away, and they were going to go memorialize him where he was happiest, where he first fell in love, was at this beach where they went to spring break, not realizing that it was actually right in the middle of it. So they show up here with suits on directly from the funeral, and they find themselves right in the middle of, you know, what was some of the craziest times for them, and they find out quickly that times have changed. And they have to it's sort of the old guard meets the new guard, and it's a funny combination.
Can I just say that set is amazing, by the way.
Beer. Don't you want that
well,
beer?
I just want to hang. I don't want to do the interview anymore. I just want to hang out and drink and play games.
Yeah.
But speaking of career choices, I heard that you wanted to be a dentist before you were an actor. What do you think of your career path now?
I was going to be a dentist. Here I am. I would take this over that any day. This has been, you know, I still have to pinch myself because I still see myself as this naive kid from North Dakota who, you know, was trying to just dip my toes in the water to see if it was something I had the nerve to do 23 years ago. And, you know, to look back on all that and all the experiences and all the ups and the downs and to still be in the game after this long is still it's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
But also very, very grateful to even be here.
Well, we're grateful you're here. This movie looks hilarious. We cannot wait to check it out. DBL Nation, be sure to check out Buddy Game Spring Awakening in theaters May 19th and on digital June 2nd. I think we should go play some ping pong in the back. Super into it. Thank you so much, Josh. We'll be right back. Enjoy.
Thank you, DBL Nation.
What?
We have seen the warnings. Too much screen time can lead to migraines. But is that true for every migraine sufferer? To get the facts, we went to Dr. Megan Donnelly, lead neurologist for Novant Health, Dr. Ahmad Estamalik, headache specialist for the Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic describes a migraine as a headache that is accompanied by severe throbbing pain or pulsing sensation in your head.
By definition, to be considered migraine, somebody has to have had at least 5 attacks in their life.
Those attacks can include nausea, vomiting, and extreme sensitivity to light and sound. But can too much screen time cause them?
Screen time alone is not going to cause a migraine in somebody who wasn't really supposed to have one anyway.
Dr. Donnelly says it can be a trigger for people who are sensitive to light and have experienced migraines in the past.
If there's somebody who already is predispositioned to having migraine, they run in the family, they've had them previously, screen time can play a role for some patients.
The time of day can also play a role in migraines that are triggered by screen time.
So if somebody is looking at the screen and it's during regular hours, they might do better. But if they're looking at the screen at all hours of the night, that can worsen the frequency of migraine as well.
Really minimize screen time, phone time, especially in the 1 to 2 hours before someone goes to sleep. I think that will make a tremendous difference.
Dr. Donnelly says other triggers like stress, whether too much or too little sleep, can also kick off a migraine. So getting a migraine from too much screen time really depends on the individual's triggers. With your Verify Fact Check, I'm Megan Bragg.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts delivered every weekday to your email inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Google search data shows many people have questions about immigration, including whether undocumented workers pay taxes. So, let's verify. Do undocumented workers pay taxes? Our sources are the Internal Revenue Service, the Social Security Administration, and the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. Federal law requires anyone who works in the U.S. to pay taxes on their income, even undocumented workers. Undocumented workers can file an income tax return using an individual taxpayer identification number, which is available to people without a Social Security number. The Social Security Administration estimated that undocumented workers contributed billions of dollars in taxes, including to Social Security, even though they're not eligible for the program. Although not every employer and worker follows the rules. If someone is paid under the table, then there's no way to track whether they pay taxes on their income. So, yes, some undocumented workers do pay taxes. They also pay other taxes like sales and excise for goods and services, as well as property taxes. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Escape to paradise for your chance to win the perfect family getaway. Watch DBL every day for a word of the day. Then enter at dailyblastlive.com/beaches for your chance to win a 4-day, 3-night beaches resort stay for a family of 4 to a beaches resorts destination in Jamaica or Turks and Caicos. Today's beaches resorts word of the day is fish. The winner will be announced on DBL May 24th.
Welcome back. We got some amazing products from our friends at Morning Save. Check them out.
All right, what do you have for us today, Steph?
All right, Jeff, are you ready for some deals with DBL Nation?
Absolutely. Let's get to it.
Check out this. You're going to love this. I am so excited to show this off because this is the fanciest thing I've ever seen. It's the Cuisinart Digital Air Fryer Toaster Oven. So this deal includes 1 toaster oven, 1 oven rack, 1 baking pan, and 1 air frying basket. So normally this is $300, Jeff, which is pretty pricey, but we've got it for $139.99, so that's saving everyone 53%. Now check out this as well. This is the Better Bedder Sheets Holder by Lori Gretner. So this deal includes 1 Better Bedder that makes making the bed really easy. And normally it's $37, but we've got it for just $19.99, so that's saving everyone 46%. Now check out this, Jeff. This is the 6-pack Safe Tea-Grip Pairing Knives. So this deal includes 6 pairing knives available in 5 different colors. We've got black, blue, we've got gray, red, and rose gold. So normally these are $29, but we've got them for just $10. So that's saving everyone 66%. Now look at this. This is our last product today. I love a handbag, and this is just gorgeous. It's the MKF Collection 2-piece 1D vegan leather hobo and wallet set. So this deal includes 1 tote and 1 wallet. We've got it available in 9 different colors, so whether you like a pop of color or prefer a nice neutral, this is sure to be your new go-to tote set. So normally they're $299, but they're very good quality, but we've got them for $44.99, so that's saving 85%.
Head on over to morningsave.com to snag these amazing deals at the lowest prices, or you can even scan the QR code on your screen to take you directly to these products on Morning Save's website. Thank you so much, Steph.
Amazing stuff, and very exciting. People are writing in fish as the word of the day, making sure they get in on that competition.
Well, that's the wrong word, so don't use that one.
It is fish.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, use it. No.
DBL's new every day. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow.
She said snail.
Oh.